Welcome to Ridgew's Mesopotamian Agricultural Surplus Museum. Throughout the presentation, we will be showing 3 different artifacts found that have proven to us to be important when thinking of how people lived. It was about 10,000 years ago that the people of Mesopotamia discovered that they could control and make food. Not only did this change the way they lived, it also created more time and less effort for the people. The artifacts that are going to be shown are different tools that the people used to make their food or organize it. By using these tools, the people then would be able to live in set villages instead of following their food everywhere it goes. This was just the beginning for people back then, and now we can see a snapshot of what they did to get food. This tool is called mortar and pestle. The stone tool shown here was made to grind food. For example, this could have been used to grind flour to make bread. These tools were likely made for preparing food and would have been a huge product for all of the people. This artifact represents agricultural surplus because it shows that people were able to supply themselves with food, unlike the hunter-gatherers. This tool was a huge help for the people of Mesopotamia because they would be able to grind anything. This was probably the best tool because we still have this tool today.
An artifact that represents the topic Mesopotamian agricultural surplus is a farming tool called a sickle. This specific farming tool was invented by people in the beginning of agriculture because Mesopotamians were believed to be the first generation of humankind when agricultural society was started. A tool such as a sickle is made out of sharp blades of flint or other objects like stones, which are attached to handles of wood or strong bones. However, these tools are only used by farmers to cut grain or grass off their field to make them edible. By inventing sickles, the farmer's job became much easier because it meant that they didn't have to pick every grain in their big field by hand, which could have took days. So the sickle helps farmers to quickly finish their work and conserve their energy. Nevertheless, farmers in Mesopotamia were once hunters who made hunting tools, but they learned to adapt to becoming farmers, making different tools for that job. So after time, the tool sickle had spread to many places in Mesopotamia, and later on, when metal was first found and invented, they made the sickle out of metal. Metal made the sickle much stronger and cheaper because metal became cheaper. Therefore, in Mesopotamia, agricultural surplus sickle was one of the most common and cheap artifacts that were found. In Mesopotamia, where the first agriculture was started, people believed in fertility goddesses. People prayed to the fertility goddess for a good crop and prosperity of the people. An example of a fertility goddess is Ashtart, who had different names, but everyone prayed for her for the same reasons. Some of these statues of the goddesses were made by hands, and others were created in molds. Mesopotamians strongly believed in these goddesses to give them endless supply of food and water each year. Praying to the fertility goddess can be seen as a religion in Mesopotamia, which was done almost every single day to make sure that they were given enough food each day. It was especially crucial that they never forgot to pray to the statues in the winter season when there weren't a lot of crops. Therefore, praying to the fertility goddesses each day for good crop and prosperity of the people was very important. Fertility goddesses were one of the common artifacts that could be found in Mesopotamia homes or near farmers' fields. So statues of fertility goddesses are like a symbol that represents agricultural surplus, however not because they are extra foods. The reason is that it is a belief of Mesopotamian that they will receive good weather and good crops because of the prayers given to the goddesses. Therefore, fertility goddesses are a big part of Mesopotamian farmers' life when they want good crop and prosperity of the people.
Thank you for watching our virtual museum that Ridgeview Grade 7 students have created about agricultural surplus in Mesopotamia. However, agricultural surplus wasn't the only thing that was first started in Mesopotamia. Other elements of agricultural society were found, and agricultural surplus is just among those 8 elements. Artifacts such as sickles, fertility goddesses, and mortar and pestles represents the topic agricultural surplus. However, there are other artifacts that were found that represents the other elements. Nevertheless, agricultural surplus is one of the most important elements that are needed to help people survive, for they need extra food in seasons that foods don't grow. For example, in the winter, it isn't common to find crops growing, so farmers try to preserve those extra foods that they have grown. However, to have extra food, they need special techniques in growing the crops, which comes to the part when they need special tools in making sure the crops grow. Therefore, every element of agriculture society plays an important role to having people like us, and every artifact that falls into these categories are needed. So, having tools like sickles, fertility goddesses, and mortar and pestle are very important to ensure that we have proper food. Once again, we thank you for watching our virtual museum, and the doors are closing as we leave the room of agricultural surplus in Mesopotamia.